I married her out of pity. No one else wanted that fat pig." Those words came out of my son-in-law's mouth during a family lunch. His family applauded. My daughter, Madeline, lowered her head. I stood up smiling and said something that wiped the smiles off their faces forever. But before I tell you what I said, I need you to understand how we arrived at that moment, because nothing hurts quite as much as watching your daughter break into pieces right before your eyes. My name is Paula Bennett. I am 59 years old, an architect, and I founded my own construction firm 25 years ago. All my life, I worked to give my children what I never had: education, dignity, and the certainty that they could be whatever they wanted to be. Madeline was my only daughter, the youngest of 3 siblings. From the time she was a child, she was different. She wasn't the thinnest, she wasn't the most popular, but she was the brightest. By age 8, she was already reading architectural digests she found on my desk. By 12, she had drafted her first blueprint. At 18, she entered the university with the highest GPA of her graduating class. I kept a photograph of her in my wallet. She was 11 in that picture. She was sitting in my office with oversized glasses and a ruler in her hand, smiling as if the whole world belonged to her. I still have that photograph. But the girl in that image took many years to return, because when Madeline was 23, she met William Sterling. He was the son of a traditional old money family from the Chicago suburbs. A well-known surname, a sprawling estate in a historic gated community. His father had been a senior partner at a law firm. His mother was the president of a prestigious country club. William was studying business administration, but he never finished his degree. He claimed that the family business didn't require a piece of paper, just experience. Madeline met him at a wedding. He was 27. He was tall, well-dressed, with that specific confidence that comes from never having worked a day in your life. He told her she was different from all the women he knew, that she wasn't superficial, that she was intelligent. Madeline came home that night with shining eyes. "Mom, I met someone." I hugged her, saw her smile, and wanted to believe everything would be fine. But there are things a mother feels in the pit of her stomach, and I felt something off from the very beginning. William took hours to reply to her texts. He canceled plans at the last minute. He said he was busy with family matters, but never specified what matters. One Saturday afternoon, Madeline cried in my kitchen. "I don't know what I'm doing wrong, Mom. Sometimes I feel like I'm not enough for him." I dried her tears. I told her that if someone made her feel that way, he didn't deserve her time. But Madeline had something I knew well, that mixture of intelligence and fragility that need to prove she was worthy of love. William knew it, and he used it. He started telling her she was special, not like those other frivolous, empty women, that he valued her brain, not her appearance. It sounded like a compliment, but it was poison. Because every time he said that, he was also saying, "You are valuable only because you think the way I want you to. Your body doesn't matter. In fact, your body is a problem." And Madeline began to change. She stopped wearing the dresses she liked. She started wearing looser, darker clothing. She stopped going to the gym because William said she didn't need to impress anyone. She stopped going out with her girlfriends because he said they were bad influences. I saw all of this, and it hurt. But Madeline was in love, and love, when it is blind, can be the worst prison. A year after they met, William proposed. It was at his parents' house, a formal dinner. Madeline arrived nervous. William pulled out a simple ring. She said yes through tears. Her future mother-in-law, Mrs. Christina Sterling, hugged her and said, "It's so good my son found someone with her feet on the ground. I was there. I heard the tone. It wasn't a compliment. It was a classification." Madeline didn't notice. She was too happy. That night, when we returned home, she showed me the ring over and over again. "Isn't it beautiful, Mom?" I nodded. But what I thought was, I hope that ring doesn't become a chain. Have you ever trusted someone too much who you shouldn't have? Have you been disappointed by a person you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. The wedding was celebrated 6 months after the engagement. Madeline was 24. I was 35 when I had her, so that day I turned 59. It was in June at a botanical garden in Lake Forest. It wasn't the wedding I would have dreamed of for her, but it was what William and his family wanted. Mrs. Sterling organized everything. She chose the venue, the colors, the menu, even the band. Madeline just nodded. When I asked if she was sure about everything, she told me, "Mom, it's easier this way. They have experience with these things." That phrase broke my heart. My daughter, who had designed entire buildings at 20, who had won university awards, who had led projects with men twice her age, was now saying it was easier to let others decide for her. On the day of the wedding, I went into the bridal suite early. She was sitting in front of the mirror with her dress on. It was a beautiful dress, white, simple, long-sleeved, but when I saw her, I noticed she was crying silently. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" She dried her tears quickly, as if she were afraid someone else might see her. "Nothing. Mom, I'm just nervous." I knelt in front of her. I took her hands. "Madeline, look at me. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. It doesn't matter who is outside. It doesn't matter the money spent. You are the only thing that matters to me." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I do want to, Mom. Really. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm not enough for him, that his family deserves something better." I felt a lump in my throat. "You are more than enough. You are brilliant, you are generous, you are beautiful." Madeline lowered her gaze. "William says what matters is what's inside, not the outside. And he's right, but sometimes I wish he would tell me, I look pretty." That day, I should have taken her out of there. I should have hugged her, put her in the car, and driven her far away. But I didn't, because I thought maybe she was exaggerating, that maybe it was just normal wedding jitters. Now I know I was wrong. The ceremony was correct. William put the ring on her. Madeline smiled. But I noticed something. When the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," William gave her a quick, almost obligatory peck, like someone filing paperwork. At the reception, William's family occupied the main tables. There were many of them uncles, cousins, friends of the family, all wearing expensive suits, all talking about stocks, properties, investments. My family was at the tables in the back, my brothers, my nephews, some of Madeline's college friends. Mrs. Sterling approached me during dinner. "Paula, I'm so glad Madeline found stability. A girl like her needs a man to guide her." I gripped my wine glass. "My daughter doesn't need anyone to guide her. She knows exactly where she's going. Mrs. Sterling smiled with that fake smile women have when they think politeness is a mask. "Of course, but you know how marriages are. The man steers the ship. The woman makes the house a home." I didn't respond because I knew arguing with her was pointless, but I kept those words. I saved them like one saves a warning. Madeline and William went on their honeymoon to Maui. 2 weeks. When they returned, Madeline was different, quieter, thinner. William said it had been a relaxing trip, but I noticed my daughter avoided my gaze. A month after the wedding, I went to visit her at her new apartment. They lived in a nice area of the city, near the lakefront, close to William's parents' estate. It was a spacious condo, well decorated, but everything was impersonal, like a catalog from a luxury furniture store. "Do you like your home, honey?" Madeline nodded while making coffee. "Yes, Mom. Mrs. Sterling helped me decorate it. She has very good taste." "And you? What did you choose?" Madeline stayed silent for a moment. "Well, I chose this." She pointed to a small plant in the kitchen window. A fern. It was the only living thing in that entire house. I swallowed hard. "And is William working?" Madeline lowered her eyes. "He's helping his dad with some paperwork. He says he'll open his own firm soon." "And are you going to keep working with me at the construction company?" Madeline bit her lip. "William thinks it's better if I take some time off. He says being married is a full-time job." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. "Madeline, you studied for 6 years. You are an architect. You have pending projects." "I know, Mom. But William is right. I need to focus on my marriage now." That afternoon, I left her apartment with a broken heart because I saw something I didn't want to see. I saw my daughter disappearing, and the worst part was that she didn't even realize it. The months followed. I called Madeline almost every day. Sometimes she answered, sometimes she didn't. When she answered, her voice sounded tired. She said she was fine, that William was good to her, that her mother-in-law visited often and taught her how to cook properly. One Friday, I invited her to lunch, just the 2 of us. She accepted. We met at a diner she had liked since she was a child, a simple place with burgers and milkshakes. Madeline arrived late, apologizing, saying William needed the car. I didn't say anything, but I noticed she had arrived in an Uber. We ordered. We ate. We talked about trivial things, but halfway through the meal, Madeline started to cry. "What's wrong, my love?" She shook her head. "Nothing, Mom. It's just that, sometimes I feel lonely." "Lonely? And William?" Madeline wiped her tears with a napkin. "William is busy. He's always busy. And when he comes home, he's tired. He says he needs silence, that I talk too much, that I ask too many questions." I squeezed her hand. "Madeline, listen to me. You do not talk too much. You are an intelligent woman who deserves to be heard." She smiled, but it was a broken smile. "Sometimes I think William married me because I wasn't like the others. Because I wasn't going to demand anything from him, because I was going to be grateful." That phrase went through me like a knife. Grateful for what? Madeline lowered her gaze. "That he chose me." I wanted to scream that she was wrong, that she was the prize, that any man should be grateful to have her, but I saw her face, I saw her fragility, and I knew it wasn't the moment to push. "Daughter, if you ever need to come home, my door is always open." Madeline nodded, but said nothing more. That night at my house, I took out the photograph I kept in my wallet, the 11-year-old girl with big glasses and a ruler in her hand, that girl who smiled as if the world were hers. And I wondered where she had gone. While I tell this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. 6 months passed since that lunch. Madeline turned 25 inches November. I organized a small dinner at my house. I invited my sons, my brothers, some close friends of Madeline's from college. Nothing ostentatious, just people who genuinely loved her. William arrived late. Madeline had already blown out the candles on the cake when he walked through the door. He didn't apologize. He just said he had an important meeting with his father. During dinner, William barely spoke to Madeline. He spent most of the time on his phone. When someone asked him something, he answered in monosyllables. Madeline tried to excuse him, saying he was tired. My eldest son, Robert, approached me in the kitchen. "Mom, that guy doesn't treat her right." I nodded in silence. "I know. And what are you going to do?" I stayed silent because I didn't know what to do. "You cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved." That night, after everyone left, I found Madeline in the garden. She was sitting on the bench where she used to sit as a child. Her eyes were red. "Are you okay, daughter?" She nodded, without looking at me. "Yes, Mom, just tired." I sat beside her. "Madeline, are you happy?" She took a long time to answer. When she did, her voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know what being happy is, Mom. I just know I'm married, and I have to make it work." "Why do you have to make it work alone? Why doesn't he do it too?" Madeline looked at me with those eyes I had known since she was born. "Because I have more to lose." That phrase broke me. More to lose. What can you lose that is more important than your peace? Madeline lowered her gaze. "My dignity, Mom. If I separate now, everyone is going to say that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't enough, that that's why he left me." I hugged her tight. "No one is going to say that. And if they do, who cares? You are worth more than any comment." Madeline cried in my arms, but at the end of the night, she left with William, and I stayed in my house feeling like I was losing my daughter little by little. The following months were worse. Madeline stopped going to family gatherings. When I called her, she answered with evasive answers. She said she was busy, that William had commitments, that his family needed her presence. In March, almost 4 months after her birthday, I received a call from Madeline on a Wednesday morning. Her voice sounded strange, dull. "Mom, can I come to your house?" "Of course, my love. Are you okay?" "Yes, I just need to talk to you." She arrived an hour later. She was wearing dark sunglasses. When she took them off, I saw her eyes were swollen. She had been crying for hours. We sat in the living room. I made her tea. Madeline held it in her hands without drinking. "What happened?" She took a deep breath. "Yesterday I had an argument with William." "Why?" Madeline lowered her gaze. "Because I told him I wanted to go back to work. That I missed architecture. That I felt useless in the house all day. And what did he say?" Madeline gripped the teacup. "He told me that I didn't understand anything. That the wives in his family don't work. That it's shameful for me to want to go out into the street as if he couldn't provide for me. that I looked desperate. I felt my blood boil. Desperate? You have a university degree. You have experience. You have talent. Madeline started crying again. That's what I told him. Mom, I told him I had studied for 6 years, that I had pending projects, that you were waiting for me at the firm, and… Madeline closed her eyes. He told me that your company is a waste of time, that it's a little hobby business for women who don't know how to do real business, that if I go back to work with you, I'm going to become a bitter woman like you. Those words hit me like a slap. Not because of what they said about me, but because Madeline had heard that and hadn't defended anything, not herself, nor me. And what did you say? Madeline opened her eyes. They were empty. I didn't say anything, Mom. I stayed quiet because, if I had said something, he would have gotten angrier. I stood up and walked to the window. I needed to control myself. I needed not to say what I was thinking, because if I told Madeline what I really thought of William, she was going to defend him, and I was going to lose her too. Madeline, listen to me well. You do not have to stay silent. You do not have to take insults. You do not have to live like this. Madeline shook her head. You don't understand, Mom. It's not that easy. Why isn't it easy? Madeline stood up. Her voice rose in volume. Because I love him. Because sometimes he is good to me. Because when we are alone, when he isn't stressed, he talks to me nicely. He tells me I'm special, that I'm different. I closed my eyes because I recognized the cycle, the manipulation, the abuse disguised as love. Daughter, that is not love. That is control. Madeline grabbed her purse. I knew you wouldn't understand. That's why I don't tell you anything. Madeline, wait. But she was already walking out the door. That afternoon I stayed alone in my house. I took out the photograph of Madeline as a child. I looked at it for hours and cried. I cried because I was watching my daughter destroy herself, and I didn't know how to save her. 2 weeks later, Madeline called me, as if nothing had happened. She told me she was fine, that William had been more affectionate, that they had gone to dinner, that he had bought her flowers. I didn't say anything because I knew those flowers were just another trap, another hook to keep her engaged. But what I didn't know was that the worst was yet to come. In May, a year and 2 months after the wedding, William lost his job. Not that he had a real job. He worked in his father's law firm doing administrative paperwork. But his father got tired of him arriving late, of him not following through, of him spending more time at the gym than at the office. One morning, Ernest Sterling told him he wasn't going to pay him anymore, that if he wanted money, he had to find a real job. William arrived home furious. Madeline told me later that he screamed for hours, that he said his father was ungrateful, that the whole family was betraying him, that no one valued him. But what impacted me most was what came after. Madeline suggested that she could go back to work, that she could help economically while he looked for something better. William exploded. He screamed at her that he was the man of the house, that he was the one who gave orders, that she wasn't going to humiliate him by working while he rested, that he'd sooner be dead than let her support him. But the reality is that William had no money, he had no savings, he had no real skills. Everything he had ever had in his life had been given to him by his parents, and now, for the first time, he was alone. That was when I made a decision that would change everything. I called Madeline and told her I needed help at the construction firm. I told her I had a big project, that I needed someone I trusted. I offered her a generous salary. Madeline accepted, but she asked me not to tell William how much she was earning. She asked me to tell him it was very little, that she was just helping out, and I accepted because I understood that lie was the only way to protect her. Madeline started working with me in June. At first, she came in nervous, frightened, but little by little she began to bloom. She smiled again, she designed again, she became herself again. And I, without her knowing, started depositing her salary into an account only she could touch an emergency fund in case she ever needed to run. But William didn't look for work, not during June, not during July, not during August. He stayed home all day, playing video games, watching TV, going out with his friends, while Madeline worked Monday to Saturday designing projects, supervising sites, earning the money that paid the rent, the food, the utilities. And William didn't say thank you. He said, "Finally, you're good for something." I knew this because one afternoon Madeline arrived at the office crying. She told me William had said that to her while she was making dinner. Finally, you're good for something, as if she were an object, as if her value depended on how much money she brought home. I clenched my fists. Madeline, how long are you going to put up with this? She wiped her tears. I don't know, Mom. I just know I'm tired. And I was tired too. Tired of watching my daughter break. Tired of shutting up. Tired of being diplomatic. But I still hadn't seen the worst, because the worst arrived on a Sunday in September, a Sunday that changed everything. Have you also felt like you're giving everything and receiving nothing in return? Have you carried someone else's weight while they told you that you weren't enough? Tell me your story in the comments. September arrived with rain. By that month, Madeline had been working with me at the firm for 3 months. She had recovered some of her shine. Not all of it, but some. When she arrived at the office in the mornings, she still had that tired look, as if she hadn't slept well, as if she carried an invisible weight on her shoulders. But when she reviewed blueprints, when she supervised sites, when she solved problems, she returned to being the brilliant woman she had always been. I watched that transformation every day, and it hurt me to know that as soon as she left the office, she dimmed again. One Thursday afternoon, we were reviewing the design for a house in the Chicago suburbs, a big project. The client wanted something modern but warm. Madeline had done a beautiful job, large windows, open spaces, an interior garden connecting all the rooms. This is incredible, daughter. The client is going to be fascinated. Madeline smiled. It was a genuine smile. Thanks, Mom. I like this project. It reminds me of when we designed together while I was still in college. I squeezed her hand. We still design together. And you are going to design many more things. Madeline nodded, but her smile faded a little. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I had kept working since I got married, if I hadn't dropped everything to try to be what William wanted. It is never too late to recover your path. Madeline lowered her gaze. But I already lost time, Mom. I already lost opportunities. I shook my head. You didn't lose anything. You are here. You are designing. You are alive. That is what matters. Madeline hugged me, and in that moment I felt that maybe, just maybe, she was finding the strength to get out of where she was. But that same night, everything changed. Madeline arrived late to her house. It was almost 8 p.m. We had been reviewing some structural calculations and lost track of time. When she realized the time, she went pale. Oh my God, Mom, William is waiting for me. I didn't tell him I was going to be late. Call him. Tell him you're working. Madeline took out her phone. She had 17 missed calls, all from William. Oh no, he's furious. Madeline, you are working. You have the right to be late. But she was packing her things, nervous, frightened. I have to go, Mom. I have to go now. I watched her run out, and I stayed in the office, feeling a rage I didn't know how to control. The next day, Friday, Madeline arrived quietly. Her eyes were red. She didn't eat breakfast. She just sat at her desk and started working without saying a word. Mid-morning, I approached her. Are you okay? She nodded without looking at me. Yes, Mom. I'm fine. Madeline, look at me. She raised her eyes. They were full of tears. What happened last night? Madeline took a deep breath. William was angry. Very angry. He said I had left him waiting as if he were a dog. He said it seemed like work was more important than him, that I was changing, that I was becoming arrogant. I clenched my fists. You are not arrogant. You are working. You are living your life. Madeline shook her head. But you're right, Mom. I should have told him. I should have arrived early. I should have been more considerate. Considerate? And him? When has he been considerate of you? Madeline stayed silent, and I understood. I understood she was so deep in that cycle that she could no longer see reality. She could no longer see that she wasn't the problem. The following days were tense. Madeline arrived early and left early. She said William needed her to be home, that he was looking for work and needed support. But I knew the truth. William wasn't looking for work. William was controlling her. 1 week later, on a Monday afternoon, I received a call from Mrs. Christina Sterling. Paula, I need to speak with you. Her tone was cold, calculated. Tell me. It's about Madeline. I think she is working too much. William tells me she arrives tired, stressed, that that she no longer has time to attend to her home. I felt my blood boil. Madeline is working because she wants to, because she is a professional. Mrs. Sterling laughed. It was a contemptuous laugh. Please, Paula. Madeline doesn't need to work. William can provide for her. With what money? William hasn't worked for months. There was a silence on the other end of the line. That is temporary. William is evaluating options. He isn't going to accept just anything. In the meantime, Madeline pays the rent. Madeline pays for the food. Madeline pays for everything. Mrs. Sterling raised her voice. That is your fault. You put those ideas in her head. You made her believe she can be something more than a wife. I hung up. I couldn't keep listening to that garbage. But that call made something clear to me. William's family knew perfectly well what was happening, and they didn't care. To them, Madeline was just a resource. A woman who had been lucky enough to marry their son, and now had to pay for that luck working, providing, enduring. That night I called Madeline. I told her about the call. I thought she would get angry. I thought she would defend her right to work. But no, Madeline just said, "Oh, Mom, you shouldn't have spoken to Mrs. Sterling like that. Now she's going to be upset. And why do I care if she's upset? She has no right to tell you what to do." Madeline sighed. "Mom, please. I don't want problems. I already have enough." "Madeline, I have to hang up, Mom. William just got home." And she hung up. I stayed with the phone in my hand, feeling like I was losing my daughter again. The days followed. October arrived. Madeline reached 1 year and 4 months of marriage. There was no celebration, no dinner. William didn't even buy her flowers. But what there was a new escalation of humiliations. William started inviting his friends to the house during the day. Men his age who didn't work either. Men who lived off their parents, off their wives, off whatever. They gathered to play video games, drink beer, talk about business deals they were never going to make. And when Madeline arrived from work, tired, with dirty clothes from having been at a construction site, William would say in front of his friends, "Look who's here, the architect. Aren't I lucky? A wife who works to keep me." His friends laughed. Madeline lowered her head and went to the kitchen. Madeline told me this one afternoon while crying in my office. "I don't know what to do, Mom. I feel like whatever I do is wrong. If I work, I'm a bad wife. If I don't work, I'm a mooch. If I speak, I'm stubborn. If I shut up, I'm stupid." I hugged her. "Nothing you do is going to be enough for him because he doesn't want you to be enough. He wants you to feel small." Madeline sobbed. "Why? Why does he do this to me if he says he loves me? Because that isn't love, daughter. That is something else." Madeline pulled away from me. "But sometimes he does love me, Mom. Sometimes he hugs me, tells me I'm important, tells me that without me he would be lost." I closed my eyes because I recognized the cycle, the trap. They mistreat you, then they comfort you, and you stay because you believe the person comforting you is the real one, not the one hurting you. But both are the same person. In November, Madeline turned 26. I organized another dinner at my house. But this time William didn't come. He said he had an important meeting. Madeline arrived alone. That night, after everyone left, Madeline stayed with me. We sat in the garden, on the same bench where we had talked a year earlier. "Are you happy, daughter?" Madeline took a long time to answer. When she did, her voice was barely audible. "No." "Then why do you stay?" Madeline looked at me with eyes full of tears. "Because I'm afraid, Mom. Afraid of being alone. Afraid that you're right. Afraid that everyone will say I failed." I took her face in my hands. "Listen to me well. You are not the one failing. It is him. He is the coward. He is the one who doesn't deserve you." Madeline wept in my arms, and I wept with her, but at the end of the night she left. She went back to her house, back to him, and I stayed alone, wondering how much more my daughter was going to endure before breaking completely. December arrived cold. The holidays were approaching, and with them, an invitation that would change everything. Mrs. Sterling organized a family lunch for Sunday, December 20th, at her estate, with the entire Sterling family, uncles, cousins, grandparents, everyone. And she invited me. Me, Madeline's mom, the owner of the little hobby business, the bitter woman. I didn't want to go, but Madeline asked me, "Please, Mom, I need you to be there. I need you to accompany me." and I accepted because I would do anything for her. But what I didn't know is that that Sunday, in that house, in front of that family, something was going to happen that none of them would ever forget. Something that would wipe the smiles off the Sterlings' faces forever. The days leading up to Sunday, December 20th, were strange. Madeline was nervous, more nervous than usual. I noticed her distracted at work, looking at her phone constantly, biting her nails. On Wednesday of that week, we were reviewing a budget when her phone rang. It was William. She answered immediately. Yes, honey. Yes, I know. Yes, I'm going to buy the wine you like. Yes, no, I won't be late. I promise. She hung up and took a deep breath. Everything okay? She nodded, but her hands were trembling. Yes, Mom. It's just that William wants everything to go perfectly on Sunday. He says his family is going to be complete, that it's important I make a good impression. Good impression? You've been married to him for over a year. What more impression do you have to make? Madeline bit her lip. It's just that Mrs. Sterling invited the whole family, including the uncles from New York, the rich ones, the investment bankers. William says maybe they can give him a job, that it's an important opportunity. I tightened my jaw. And what is he going to do to get that job? Or is he just going to wait for his family to gift it to him? Madeline lowered her gaze. Mom, please, don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just telling the truth. Madeline closed the budget folder. The truth is that I need that day to go well. I need William to be calm. I need his family to stop seeing me as what? Madeline closed her eyes. As if I wasn't enough for him. Those words broke my heart again. Because my daughter had spent a year and a half feeling she wasn't enough, feeling she had to earn a place that was already hers by right. Madeline, listen to me. You are more than enough. The problem is not you. Madeline stood up. I have to go, Mom. I have to go to the supermarket. Are you going to cook for that lunch? No, Mrs. Sterling has caterers, but I have to bring some things. Wine, artisan bread, some flowers. And William. Is he bringing anything? Madeline looked at me with a sadness she no longer knew how to hide. William is bringing his presents, Mom. That is enough for them. And she left. That night I couldn't sleep. Something unsettled me. Something beyond the lunch, beyond the family. There was something in Madeline's voice that told me she was hiding something else. Thursday morning I arrived early at the office. Madeline arrived half an hour later. She had deep circles under her eyes. Did you sleep well? She shook her head. Not really. William and I had another argument last night. Why? Madeline sat at her desk, took out a file, but didn't open it. She just held it in her hands. Because I told him I didn't want to go to the lunch on Sunday. I looked up, surprised. You told him that? Madeline nodded. Yes. I told him I felt uncomfortable, that his family always makes me feel small, that I don't want to be there listening to comments. And what did he say? Madeline squeezed the folder. He got angry. He told me I always exaggerate, that his family treats me well, that the problem is I'm too sensitive, that I need to grow up. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Madeline, you are not too sensitive. You are reacting to something real. Madeline looked at me with shiny eyes. Then why do I feel like I'm crazy, Mom? Why do I feel like maybe he's right and I'm exaggerating everything? That question broke me, because it was the question of someone who had been manipulated for so long she no longer trusted her own perception of reality. You are not crazy and you are not exaggerating. What happens is that he makes you doubt, because if you doubt, he has control. Madeline started crying silently. Sometimes I think about leaving him, Mom. Sometimes I think about packing my things and getting out of there. But then I think about what his family is going to say, what his friends are going to say, how everyone is going to see me. I stood up and knelt in front of her. And who cares what they say? They don't live your life. They don't know what you endure every day. They aren't in your place. Madeline sobbed. But you don't understand, Mom. If I leave him, everyone is going to say that I couldn't cut it, that I wasn't a good enough wife, that that's why he treated me like that. They're going to say it was my fault. I took her face in my hands. Then let them say it. But you will be alive. You will be free. And that is the only thing that matters. Madeline hugged me, cried on my shoulder for several minutes, and I held her wishing I could carry her pain for her. When she calmed down, she wiped her tears. I'm going to go to that lunch, Mom. I'm gonna go because I need to try one more time. I need to see if there is anything to salvage from this marriage." I nodded, although inside I knew there was nothing to salvage, but I couldn't tell her because she needed to discover it for herself. On Friday, Madeline didn't come to work. She sent me a text saying she had to help William with some things for the lunch. I didn't insist. I knew pushing her would only push her away. Saturday afternoon, Madeline called me. "Mom, you're going tomorrow, right?" "Yes, daughter. I'll be there. Thanks. Truly. I need you to be there. Are you okay?" There was a long silence. "I don't know, Mom. But tomorrow I'll find out." That phrase unsettled me, but I didn't ask more. I just told her I loved her. And we hung up. That night, while preparing the clothes I was going to wear the next day, I thought about everything that had happened in the last 2 years. From the time Madeline met William until now, I thought about all the signs I had seen, all the times I had stayed silent, all the times I had wanted to scream at her to get out of there, and I thought about what was going to happen tomorrow. In that house full of people who looked at my daughter with disdain, in that family that treated her as if she were an object, I took out the photograph of Madeline as a child, the one I kept in my wallet. I looked at it for a long time. "Tomorrow I am going to defend you, my love. Whatever happens." Sunday dawned overcast. It was cold. I put on a simple dress, wine-colored, nothing showy, nothing that called attention, just something dignified. I arrived at the Sterling estate in Lake Forest at 1 p.m. It was a large house, colonial style, expansive grounds. There were several cars parked outside, expensive cars, BMWs, Mercedes, and Audi. I rang the bell. A housekeeper opened the door and led me to the back garden. There they all were, the Sterling family in full force. Ernest Sterling, William's father, with his gray suit and impeccable mustache, Christina Sterling with her designer dress and pearl necklace, the uncles from New York with their gold watches and shiny rings, the female cousins with their brand-name bags and hollow laughter, the male cousins with their pressed shirts and airs of superiority, and in the middle of them all, Madeline. She was sitting in a chair, silent, hands in her lap. She was wearing a simple beige dress, no makeup, no jewelry, as if she wanted to disappear. William was standing next to her, but he wasn't looking at her. He was talking to his cousins, laughing, drinking a beer. When she saw me arrive, Mrs. Sterling approached with that fake smile I already knew. "Paula, so good you could come. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you for the invitation." "Not at all. After all, you are Madeline's mom. Your family." But her tone said the opposite. It said, "You are a tolerated guest, nothing more." I sat next to Madeline. I took her hand. It was cold. "Are you okay, daughter?" She nodded without looking at me. "Yes, Mom. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. I knew it. The lunch began. Mrs. Sterling had prepared a banquet clam chowder, prime rib, salads, desserts, everything served on fine china, everything perfect. The uncles from New York talked about their deals, their investments, their trips to Europe. Ernest spoke of his glory days at the law firm. Christina talked about her country club. No one asked Madeline anything. It was as if she didn't exist. And William didn't speak to her either. He kept drinking beer, kept laughing with his cousins, kept ignoring her. I watched all of this and felt the rage growing inside me, but I hadn't seen anything yet. Because the worst was yet to come. And when it arrived, when William opened his mouth and said those words, everything changed. Everything. I still wonder if I did the right thing that day. And you, if you saw your daughter being humiliated in front of an entire family, what would you have done? The meal continued with that air of falseness that gatherings have where everyone pretends to be comfortable. I observed every gesture, every look, every veiled comment. I was there for Madeline, only for her. At 2:30 p.m., Mrs. Sterling asked everyone to move to the main dining room. It was a long table of dark wood, with upholstered chairs and a huge chandelier in the center. Everything screamed money, but it didn't scream love. It didn't scream real family. We arranged ourselves according to Mrs. Sterling's instructions. She at one head, Ernest at the other, the New York uncles on the sides, William next to his father, and Madeline and I, almost at the end of the table in the corner, as if we were a footnote. The soup was served, the wine was served. The conversations flowed, but always the same. Business, money, properties. Who bought what? Who sold what? Who knew whom? Ernest raised his glass. I want to propose a toast to the Sterling family, for our roots, for our tradition, and for continuing to be upstanding pillars of this community. Everyone raised their glasses. I did too, but I didn't drink. I just observed. Madeline didn't drink either. She had her eyes fixed on her plate, as if she wanted to disappear inside it. One of the uncles from New York, Richard, a man of about 60 with gray hair and a deep voice, looked at William. William, your father tells me you still haven't found something to work on. William smiled. It was an uncomfortable smile. I'm evaluating options, Uncle. I don't want to accept just anything. I want something worthwhile. Richard nodded, but his look was skeptical. I understand, but you've been without work for how long? 6 months? 7, Uncle. But I'm not worried. Something will come up soon. Mrs. Sterling intervened quickly. William is very careful with his decisions, not like others who accept any little job just out of necessity. That phrase was directed at me, or maybe at Madeline, or maybe at both. I didn't say anything, but I felt my shoulders tense up. Richard looked at Madeline for the first time since we arrived. And you, Madeline, do you work? Madeline looked up, surprised anyone asked her anything. Yes, Uncle. I work at a construction firm. Whose construction firm? Madeline looked at me quickly and then lowered her eyes again. My mom's. Richard raised his eyebrows. Ah, I see. And do they pay you well? Madeline turned red. It's a fair salary. William let out a laugh. It was a contemptuous laugh, short, like a bark. Define fair, babe. Madeline looked at him. There was pain in her eyes, but there was also something else. There was fear. It's a good salary, William. William leaned back in his chair and took another swig of beer. Yeah, sure. A good salary at a little family business. I gripped the silverware so hard my knuckles turned white. One of the cousins, Xavier, a guy about 30 with gelled hair and a striped shirt, laughed. And what do you do at this construction firm, Madeline? Bring coffee to the bricklayers? Everyone at the table laughed. Everyone except Madeline. And me. Madeline tried to smile, but it was a broken smile. No. I'm an architect. I design projects. Mrs. Sterling intervened with that sweet and poisonous voice she had. How nice, dear. But I hope you aren't neglecting your responsibilities at home. William needs a present wife, not a tired employee. I was about to say something. I was about to stand up and tell that woman everything I thought of her. But Madeline looked at me, and in her look there was a plea. Please, Mom. No. So I stayed quiet. But inside I was boiling. The meal continued. The comments too, one after another, like small but constant stabs. At 3:30 they served dessert crème brûlée. Ernest spoke again. William, I think Richard has a proposal for you. Everyone looked at Richard. He wiped his mouth with the napkin and looked at William. That's right. I need someone to supervise one of my distribution centers in Gary, Indiana. It's a simple job. You just have to be present, check inventory, sign documents. I'd pay you $3,500 a month to start. William sat up straighter in his chair. For the first time in the whole meal, he seemed interested. Sounds good, Uncle. When would I start? In January. But I need you to commit. No arriving late or missing days. It is a serious job. William nodded. Of course, Uncle. You can count on me. Richard looked at him fixedly. Sure? Because your father tells me your work record hasn't been the best. William turned red. That was before, Uncle. Now I'm focused. Now I know what I want. Richard nodded slowly. All right, I'll trust you. But at the first mistake, you're out. William smiled. There won't be mistakes, Uncle. I promise. Mrs. Sterling clapped. How wonderful. You see, William? I told you everything would come in time. God rewards patience. I almost choked on my water. Patience? Whose patience? William's, who had spent 7 months doing nothing while my daughter worked 12 hours a day to support him, but I didn't say anything yet. Then William looked at Madeline, and what he said next was what lit the fuse. See, babe? You won't have to work so much anymore. You won't have to carry everything. Madeline nodded in silence. Xavier, the cousin, spoke again. Hey, William, but $3,500 a month isn't much. How are you going to manage? William shrugged. Madeline is still going to work for now, until I can grow in Uncle's company. One of the younger uncles, Hector, a chubby man with glasses, laughed. So, Madeline is going to continue being the breadwinner. William frowned. It's temporary. Hector leaned back in his chair. Temporary. Right. And how much does Madeline earn? More than you? William tensed up. That doesn't matter. Of course it matters. If she earns more, technically she is the one keeping you, right? Everyone at the table went silent, waiting for William's answer. William clenched his jaw, drank more beer, and then something in him changed. I saw his face harden. I saw his eyes fill with rage. Rage against Madeline, rage against me, rage against the world. And then he said what he had been holding back for months. You know what? Yes, Madeline keeps me. So what? I married her knowing what she was. Madeline looked up, surprised, frightened. William. But he didn't stop. The beer, the pressure, the humiliation he felt in front of his family, it all came out at once. William stood up, looked at his family, and then looked at Madeline with a contempt I had never seen in anyone. I married her out of pity. Because no one else wanted that fat pig. She should be grateful someone like me chose her. The silence that followed was deafening. No one moved, no one breathed. And then the worst part, William's family started to laugh. First it was Xavier, then Hector, then the cousins, then the uncles. Everyone. Everyone laughed as if it were a joke, as if humiliating my daughter in front of everyone was something funny. Mrs. Sterling covered her mouth, but her eyes shone with that cruelty people have who enjoy the pain of others. Ernest shook his head, smiling, as if saying, "That's my son. What character?" And Madeline. Madeline lowered her head. Her shoulders began to shake. Tears fell onto her plate. But she didn't make a noise. She didn't scream. She didn't defend herself. She just broke in silence. And I felt something I had never felt in my life. I felt an absolute calm, a perfect clarity. I stood up from my chair. Everyone stopped laughing and looked at me. I smiled. I smiled in the same way they had smiled. And then I spoke. My voice was calm, firm, without a trace of doubt. William, are you finished? He looked at me confused. What? I asked if you finished, if you already said everything you wanted to say about my daughter. William frowned. It's not your problem, Paula. I kept smiling. You're right. It's not my problem. It's yours. What are you talking about? I took a step toward him. The whole table watched me in silence. I'm talking about the fact that my daughter, that fat pig who, according to you, no one wanted, is the only reason you still have a roof over your head. I'm talking about how for 7 months she has paid your rent, your food, your beers, and your outings with your useless friends. I'm talking about how she works 12 hours a day designing projects you couldn't even understand. William went pale. Paula, I wasn't finished. And since we are talking about truths in front of your family, let's talk about another truth. William Sterling works for me. Did you know that? Everyone at the table froze. Ernest frowned. What are you saying? I looked William directly in the eyes. I'm saying that 3 months ago, when your son couldn't find work anywhere, when no company wanted him because he has a reputation for arriving late, for not following through, and for not knowing how to do anything, I gave him a job out of pity for my daughter. William shook his head. That's a lie. I took out my phone. I opened my email. I showed it to Ernest. Here is the contract. William Sterling, Administrative Assistant at Bennett Construction. Salary, $2,000 a month. Less than what my day laborers earn, because that is all he is worth. Ernest read the email. His face changed completely. Mrs. Sterling turned pale. William remained standing, trembling. That's not, I interrupted. Do you know what is the saddest part, William? That the only reason I haven't fired you is because my daughter asked me not to. She told me, Mom, please, give him a chance. He needs to work. He needs to feel useful. I looked at the entire Sterling family. My daughter, that woman you just called a fat pig, that woman who, according to you, no one wanted, that woman has been begging for you, defending you, supporting you, saving you, Richard, the uncle from New York, spoke for the first time with a hard voice. "William, is this true?" William couldn't speak. He just lowered his gaze. I continued. "And since we are here, in front of your whole family, I'm going to say something else. William doesn't know how to do anything. The only thing he knows how to do well is clean toilets. And that's because I taught him. Because when he arrived at my company, he didn't even know how to answer a phone correctly." Mrs. Sterling stood up, furious. "That is enough. How dare you come to my house and insult my son?" I looked at her fixedly. "I didn't come to insult anyone. I came because my daughter asked me to. But your son decided to humiliate her in front of all of you, and you all decided to laugh. So now everyone is going to hear the truth." I turned to Madeline. She was crying, but now she was looking at me with open eyes. "Madeline, get up." She hesitated. "Mom, get up, daughter. It is enough." Madeline stood up slowly. I took her hand. "We are leaving. Now." Madeline nodded. She grabbed her purse, and together we walked toward the exit. Behind us, I heard the absolute silence of the Sterling family. No one stopped us. No one said anything. Because for the first time in a long time, they had no words. The smiles they had minutes before had been erased forever. And as we walked out of that house, as Madeline cried silently by my side, I knew something had changed. Something profound. Something irreversible. We left that house in silence. Madeline walked beside me as if she were in shock, as if she couldn't process what had just happened. I guided her to my car. I opened the passenger door. She sat down without saying a word. I started the engine. We left that gated community of large houses and perfect lawns. No one followed us. No one came out to stop us. The Sterling family stayed inside, digesting what they had just heard. I drove in silence for 10 minutes. Madeline stared out the window. Tears kept falling, but she wasn't sobbing anymore. It was a silent cry, the most painful kind. When we reached a red light, I turned to look at her. "Are you okay, daughter?" Madeline didn't answer. She kept looking out the window. "Madeline, look at me." She turned slowly. Her eyes were red, swollen. But there was something else. There was a question, a doubt. "Why did you do it, Mom?" I frowned. "Why did I do what? Why did you give William a job? Why didn't you tell me?" I took a deep breath. The light turned green. I kept driving. "Because you asked me to, daughter. 3 months ago, when William had been out of work for 4 months, you came to my office crying. You told me he was depressed, that he felt useless, that he needed something to make him feel valuable. You begged me to give him a chance." Madeline closed her eyes. "I don't remember that. Because you have blocked out many things, my love. Because you have been surviving, not living." Madeline covered her face with her hands. "And why didn't you tell me how much you were paying him? Why didn't you tell me you put him to clean toilets?" I stopped the car on the side of the road. I turned off the engine. I turned completely toward her. "Because you asked me not to tell you anything. You told me, 'Mom, please, pay him whatever, but don't tell me how much it is. I don't want to know. I just need him to have something.' And I accepted, because I love you, because I would do anything for you." Madeline started crying again, but this time it was different. It was a cry of liberation, of rage, of accumulated pain. "And the toilet cleaning? Is it true?" I nodded. "It is true. But it wasn't a punishment, Madeline. It was because it is the only thing he could do well. I gave him administrative tasks, answering phones, organizing files, taking documents from one place to another. He couldn't handle anything. He arrived late, he made mistakes, he spent all his time on his phone. The workers complained about him, so I put him to clean the offices and the bathrooms at the end of the day. And there, it worked, because it was something he couldn't ruin." Madeline sobbed. Oh my God, Mom, why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me keep believing he was looking for work? Because you wanted to believe that. Because you needed to believe he could change. And I wasn't going to take that hope away from you. Not until you were ready to see it for yourself." Madeline took deep breaths several times, trying to calm herself. "And the job Richard offered him? The $3,500 a month?" I shook my head. "It won't last. William doesn't know how to work under pressure. He doesn't know how to keep a schedule. He doesn't know how to be responsible. He is going to fail. And Richard is going to fire him in less than 2 months. Madeline wiped her tears with the sleeve of her dress. How can you be so sure? Because I have been running a company for 25 years, daughter. Because I have seen hundreds of people work. And I know how to recognize someone who doesn't have what it takes. William isn't bad by nature, but he is weak. And weakness, when it isn't worked on, turns into cruelty. Madeline looked out the window again. And now, what am I going to do, Mom? Where am I going to go? I took her hand. You are coming to my house. You are going to stay with me as long as you need. And tomorrow, we are going to go to your apartment to get your things. Madeline shook her head. I can't do that. I'm still married to him. Still? Still what, Madeline? Do you still love him? Madeline closed her eyes. The tears fell again. I don't know, Mom. I don't know what I feel. I just know I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of being alone. Afraid he's right. Afraid no one else will want me. Afraid that I am the problem. I took her face in my hands, forcing her to look at me. Listen to me well, Madeline Bennett. You are not the problem. You were never the problem. You are brilliant. You are beautiful. You are valuable. And any man who cannot see that is blind, or a coward, or both. Madeline cried in my arms for several minutes. I held her, stroking her hair, remembering when she was a little girl crying over scraped knees. But this was different. This was a deeper pain. After a while, Madeline pulled away. Okay, Mom, let's go to your house. I started the car again. We arrived at my house 20 minutes later. It was 5 p.m. The sky was gray, threatening snow. We went in. I made tea. We sat in the living room. Madeline held the cup in her hands, looking at the liquid as if it had all the answers. How long did you know William was like this? I took a sip of my tea before answering. From the beginning. From the first time I saw him. Madeline looked up, surprised. From the beginning? Yes. When you came home that night after meeting him. When you told me you had met someone special, I saw something in your eyes. I saw insecurity. I saw need. And I knew that any man who approached you in that moment wasn't going to be the right one. Madeline frowned. Why didn't you say anything? Because you wouldn't have listened to me. Because you were in love. Or rather, you were in love with the idea that someone had chosen you, and I couldn't take that away from you. Not without hurting you. Madeline lowered her gaze. You're right. I wouldn't have listened. I know. And that's why I stayed quiet. That's why I let you make your own mistakes. Because sometimes pain is the only teacher that truly teaches us. Madeline stayed quiet a moment. And if I had stayed, if you hadn't said anything today, if I had stayed quiet like always, I looked at her fixedly. Then you would have broken completely, and maybe you wouldn't have been able to recover. Madeline took a deep breath. Thanks, Mom, for doing what I couldn't do. I squeezed her hand. I will always protect you, daughter. Always. That night, Madeline stayed in her old room. I gave her clean clothes. We ate something light. At 9 p.m., Madeline's phone started ringing. It was William. She looked at the screen and then at me. Do I answer? I shook my head. No. Not tonight. Tonight is for you. To rest. To breathe. Madeline turned off the phone. But at 10, the text started pinging on the iPad she had linked. Madeline, we need to talk. Please answer. It was a mistake. I didn't mean that. My family is mad at me because of you. I need you to come home. If you don't come back, I'm coming to get you. Each message more desperate, more manipulative. At 11 p.m., there was a pounding on my door. Madeline was in her room. I went to open it. I already knew who it was. William was on the other side. His hair was messy, shirt wrinkled, eyes red. He had been drinking. Where is Madeline? I crossed my arms. Not your problem. Yes, it is. She's my wife. Your wife who you called a fat pig in front of your whole family? William clenched his jaw. It was a mistake. I was angry. I didn't think. Exactly. You didn't think. But you said it. And that is what you really think. William tried to push past. I stood in the middle. You are not entering my house, William. Let me speak to her. No. I have a right. You have no rights. Not after what you did. Behind me, I heard steps. Madeline had come out of her room. She stood in the hallway looking at William. William saw her, and his expression changed, softened, became vulnerable. "Baby, please, forgive me. I don't know what happened to me. It was the pressure, the family, everything. I didn't mean those things." Madeline walked slowly toward the door. I stepped aside but stayed close. "William, I'm tired. I know, baby. I know, and I'm sorry. Truly, I'm sorry. But I need you to come home. I need us to talk." Madeline shook her head. "I can't come back, William. Not now." William stepped forward. "Why? Because of what I said?" "I already told you I'm sorry." "What else do you want?" Madeline looked at him fixedly. "I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to tell me if you really married me out of pity." William went pale. "No, baby. Of course not. I love you. You love me? Really?" William nodded desperately. "Yes, I love you. You are my wife. You are. You are important to me." Madeline smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You didn't say, 'I'm beautiful.' You didn't say, 'I'm valuable.' You said, 'I'm important,' like an object, like something useful." William stayed silent. Madeline continued. "For a year and 7 months, I have tried to be enough for you. I have worked, cooked, cleaned, endured comments from your family, endured your humiliations, and it has never been enough. Because to you, I will never be enough." William shook his head. "That's not true." "Yes, it is. And you know it. That's why you said what you said today. Because deep down that is what you think, that I should be grateful, that you did me a favor, that I am less than you." William tried to approach, but Madeline took a step back. "Don't come closer. Madeline, please." "No, William. No more. I need time. I need to think. I need to be far away from you." William changed tactics. His voice became hard. "And you're going to stay here with your mommy like a little girl?" Madeline raised her chin. "Yes, I am going to stay with my mom. Because she respects me. Because she values me. Because she has never called me a fat pig in front of anyone." William clenched his fists. "This is her fault. She put ideas in your head. She made you believe you're better than me. I intervened. I didn't put anything in her head. I only showed her the truth, something you never did." William looked at me with hate. "This is between my wife and me. Your wife is under my roof. And while she is here, she will be treated with respect. Something you don't know how to do." William took a threatening step toward me, but Madeline stepped in between. "Go, William. Please. Go." William looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "You're going to regret this. Both of you are going to regret this." And he left. Madeline closed the door, leaned against it, and started to shake. I hugged her. The next day, Monday, December 21st, we decided to go to Madeline's apartment to get her things. I didn't trust William. We arrived at 10 a.m. William's car wasn't there. The place was a disaster. Beer bottles, clothes on the floor. Madeline walked slowly through the apartment. This was my home. I put a hand on her shoulder. "Not anymore. Your home is where you feel safe." We packed her clothes. In the closet, I found an envelope with photos of Madeline before she got married. When she still smiled, I showed them to her. She cried. "Look who I was. Mom, and you will smile like that again, I promise." Before leaving, Madeline stopped in the kitchen. She took the fern. "I'm taking it, Mom." I nodded. "Take it." We left that apartment for the last time. Back at my house, Madeline sat on the bed with the fern. "Mom, do you think I'll ever be okay?" "Yes, my love, but it will take time." That afternoon she started unpacking. The following days were strange. It was Christmas week. Wednesday, December 22nd, I tried to get her to eat breakfast. She looked small in one of my old sweaters. "How do you feel?" "I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I woke up from a nightmare. Other times I feel like the nightmare is just starting." No. That same afternoon, my secretary called. Mrs. Sterling was demanding to speak to me. I met her the next day, December 23rd, at a coffee shop downtown. She arrived late. "I need Madeline to come back to William." I almost laughed. Excuse me? I need you to convince her. Tell her Sunday was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Your son called my daughter a fat pig and you all laughed. William was stressed. But Madeline has responsibilities. Responsibilities? To a man who humbles her, who lives off her. William is working in my company, cleaning toilets, because it's the only thing he can do. Mrs. Sterling closed her eyes. That was unnecessary, Paula. This is abuse, Christina, and I won't let my daughter go back. Mrs. Sterling stood up. This won't end here. William has rights. Let him try. But I warn you, if he hurts her, I will use every resource I have to destroy him. I walked out. Christmas Eve was just the two of us. Peace. On Christmas Day, Madeline's phone wouldn't stop ringing. She turned it off. I can't take it. Then don't. Change your number. The next day, we did just that. A fresh start. On December 28th, Madeline said, Mom, I want to go back to work. Are you sure? Yes. I need to feel useful again. On December 30th, she returned to the office. The workers welcomed her warmly. One engineer, Robert, whispered, You did good getting away from him, Miss Madeline. We saw how he treated you. New Year's Eve, we watched fireworks in the garden. Goodbye to everything old, Madeline said. January brought fresh air. But on January 4th, my foreman Robert called. William hasn't shown up for 3 days. I sent the termination email immediately. The next day, William was at my office. Waiting. I need to talk to her. No. I love her. You don't know what love is. He left, screaming that we would regret it. I changed the locks at home and installed cameras. On January 11th, Richard the uncle called. Paula, I had to fire William. He showed up drunk, late, missed days. I'm sorry, don't be. How is Madeline? Better. Much better. On January 22nd, Madeline asked for a divorce. We went to a lawyer. Simple case, he said. The apartment is in your name. On January 27th, William got the papers. Mrs. Sterling called screaming. That night, William came to my house, drunk, screaming outside. Madeline, come out. I went out. Leave or I call the police. He left, defeated. Valentine's Day. Breakfast with Madeline. First time in 2 years I don't feel sad, she said. I feel free. In late February, William signed the papers without a fight. By May, the divorce was final. Madeline cried tears of liberation. I heard about William later. After losing the job with his uncle, no one would hire him. He lost the apartment, moved back with his parents. Ernest was sick. Christina was bitter. William ended up working at a call center, answering phones for minimum wage. Justice. 2 years have passed. Today is Sunday again. Madeline turns 28. We are in my garden. Flowers everywhere. Madeline is smiling. She has a new boyfriend, Daniel, an architect who treats her like a queen. My son Robert hugs me. You did the right thing that day, Mom. I look at Madeline. I just did what a mother does. We cut the cake. Madeline makes a wish. Later, we walk to the bench. Mom, I want to thank you for saving me. You saved yourself, honey. You know, she says. Daniel proposed. She shows me a ring. Simple, elegant. I said yes, because this time I'm not afraid. We hug. I look over at the party. I see my daughter dancing. She is alive, truly alive. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because sometimes, knowing you aren't alone is all you need to take the first step. You deserve to be happy.